Welcome, everyone. Our lesson today will be on how do we graph quadratic functions. This is really just looking at graphing from our vertex form. So let's start there by writing the form once again at the top of our page and just discussing what different parts of the form we will need in order to graph. So the first thing we will need to know is our vertex. Remember, the vertex is, your h and k value. Once again, since we don't have a bracket here, I know my h value will be equal to 0 and my k value here is 3. So my vertex is 0 and 3. From the last lesson, remember the direction of opening comes from right here, whether this is negative or positive. Since A is greater than 0 here, we know that this is up. This will open upward, the direction of opening. We also have to know the steps. So our A value right here is 1, so we know the A is equal to 1. So remember the steps are 1A, 3A, 5A. So we're just substituting in 1 here for each of those. So our steps would be 1, 3, and 5. We'll talk about the equation of the axis of symmetry after we plot our first example and we can see it visually. But after that, we should be able to get the axis of symmetry from our vertex. But let's plot this first. So the first step here is to plot the vertex. So we're going to plot vertex. That should be your first step. So 0 and 3. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to plot at 0, 3. I know the direction of my steps are going to go up. So then I'm going to plot my steps. Remember, you always go over 1. That's important. We're always going over 1, and these we go up 1, up 3, up 5. So I go to where I've plotted my vertex. I'm just going to go over 1, and I'm going to go up 1, and that's my first step. And because we know the parabola is symmetrical, we can go over 1 and up 1 on the other side. My next step is 3. So remember, you start from your last point. I'm still going over 1 each time and up 1, 2, 3. Over 1, up 1, 2, 3. The next step would be over 1, up 5. There's not enough room for that, but generally we just want to get 5 key points, and then we draw a curve the best we can for our parabola. And you should get in the habit also of labeling right on the graph. Even though the equation's at the top, you should label your graph. The other thing I'm looking for is the equation of the axis of symmetry. So remember, the symmetry is this vertical line that cuts this parabola into 2 equal halves, and that is your x value, which we know here is 0. So it's a vertical line, so it's in the form x is equal to 0. So the equation of the axis of symmetry is x is equal to 0. As you can see, this goes directly through the vertex at the h value. So we know the axis of symmetry will be in the form x is equal to h, because it will always go through the vertex. And we want the h value of the vertex, which in this case is 0. So let's try another example. So first off, we know we need the vertex in order to plot. So when I look up here, I see that my h value is equal to 5. My k value is 2. So my vertex is 5 and 2. The direction of opening, remember we look right here. This is positive, so I know this will open up. And I also recognize that this is a 1 value here, really. So my steps, once again, remember it's 3A, 4A, 5A, sorry. And we're just substituting in a 1 here. So I know my steps are 1, 3, and 5 again. The axis of symmetry, as we discussed in the first example, will be x is equal 5 is our h value. You can also write it in the form x subtract 5 is equal 0 if you prefer to write it in that form. So let's first do our first step. Remember, we're going to first plot the vertex. So at 5 and 2. We'll plot our vertex. We know the steps will go up. So I'm going to do my first step. Remember, always going over 1, and my first step is up 1. Over 1, up 1. Going from that last point, over 1, up, 1, 2, 3. Over 1, up, 1, 2, 3. Once again, we don't have enough room to do the next step, but we have 5 key points here. We can draw our curve. Remember, don't forget to put the arrows. It doesn't stop here. That's just the amount that we can plot on our grid. And we're going to write the equation beside our graph. Let's look at a couple parabolas that open down. So once again, same steps. First looking at our vertex, remember the h here, remember when you take the h value out, it changes the sign. So this will be a -3 and a k value of 2. So my vertex is -3 and 2. So I could plot that. I know it's at -3 and 2. The direction of opening, remember the direction of opening comes from right here. It's a negative, so this will open down. My steps, once again, it's 1A, 3A, 5A. I notice that my A value here is equal to 1, so I know my steps, once again, are 1, 3, and 5. So let's go to our vertex. We're going to go over 1, down 1, over 1, down 1, over 1, down 1, 2, 3, over 1, 1, 2, 3. We could go over 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Over 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then draw the best curve you can connecting those points. Y is equal negative x add 3 squared add 2. Oh, and the axis of symmetry, remember that is the h value, so x is equal to -3. Let's try one now that has an a value that is not 1. So what if we have an a value of 2? So here we have an a value of 2. So once again, our h value here is 4. There's nothing added or subtracted here, so we know k is 0. So we have a vertex of 4 and 0. The direction of opening will be down. And the steps we will use this time using our 3, 1, 3, 5 are, we're just substituting in for a. Remember, a is equal -2, so it'll be -2, -6, -10. And remember, the equation of the axis of symmetry is x is equal to our h value, which is 4. So let's first plot our vertex at 4 and 0. Still going over by 1, we're going to go down 1, 2. Over 1, down 1, 2. Over 1, down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Over 1, down 6. Draw your curve with arrows at the end and label. So that is a summary of how to graph our quadratics from vertex form.